that's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of...
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome, everybody, to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. 10 weeks of NFL football are done and in the books. We are looking into Week 11. It is our weekly Power Rankings draft. No, that is not Jimmy Ray from NFL Stats sitting next to me. That is my producer, Anthony Wayner, out from back behind the scenes, going to be doing this Power Rankings draft with us this week. Anthony, I'm sure you're riding high right now, man. How's it going? You're muted. Good start to the show, Mr. Producer. Take two. We're live.
I'm excited because
there you go.
I'm repping the Lions gear, and I'm happy to do it this time. 2 wins in a row against 2 division rivals, and it's been a lot of fun. It's only downhill from here, but it's fun while it lasts. So I'm excited to rank our team. So let's go.
So are you okay doing the dual role now? You're usually the producer with your head down behind the scenes. You got to be actually thinking about power rankings, and this is going to be a crazy week, right? Because a lot of teams at the top lost, a lot of teams at the bottom won. I'm curious to see where your rankings lands. You good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go. I'm curious to know where you're putting the team, so I'm really excited to debate some stuff. So let's go.
Well, I find that Jimmy and I tend to align a lot, so I'm curious to see where you and I end up, falling. The one time we had Ty Dunn on as a guest, he threw everything off, so this could throw the rankings off, but that's what makes this fun. I want to highlight, we had a message in the chat waiting before we got live. David Morazzo, Dolphins versus 49ers in a Super Bowl ? One can dream. Looking forward to the show, Brian. David, I would love nothing more. I am going to the 49ers game against the Miami Dolphins here in Santa Clara on December 4th, along with 49ers Rush, John Chapman, that whole crew. Can't wait to do that. But yes, let's put it out into the universe, David. Thank you for making that suggestion. All right, I am ready to party and get this Power Rankings draft started. Anthony, are you ready?
Yes, let me go get the timer.
There you go. See, this he gives some guest to producer, producer to guest, working multiple cameras. Awesome. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football started 4 seconds ago. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up, as we always do, our list of teams. As the guest drafter this week, Anthony, I am going to give you the first shot at this. Who are you putting at number 32 in the Power Rankings this week?
I was so close to saying the Texans don't belong there, but I have to say the Houston Texans stay at 32. They're just not looking good. Dameon Pierce is probably the only good part of that team. They fought against the Eagles, then they lost again and again, and they stay at 32. I think they're the worst team in the NFL right now.
I thought they actually picked them to cover the spread against the Giants based on how a few factors. One, how they played the Eagles last week. I just thought that, being tied with them at halftime in a primetime game, Thursday Night Football, I just thought that they were showing a little bit of fight, a little bit of spunk. Of course, Dameon Pierce has been one of the best rookies in the NFL this year. And on the other side, the Giants haven't beat anybody by, more than a touchdown. And so they let me down. So I'm fine with that. I also had the Texans number 32 in my power rankings. I did for a split second consider this other team at 32. I'm curious to see if you agree. And I'm going to go ahead and put the Raiders at 31. Okay. This is a team that is just a disaster right now. You got Derek Carr crying afterwards. Just lost to... All the talk this week was about how Jeff Saturday was unqualified. The guy hadn't even coached in college for any position, coordinator, play caller, whatever. Now he's head coach of the Indianapolis Colts with less than a week to get ready for a game against the Raiders. And he just tweeted about the Raiders the week before about how bad they were playing, and the Colts still went out and won. The Raiders just look like a disaster. Josh McDaniels, we now have 2.5 seasons of coaching data on him. I'm starting to question whether he can be a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, what did the I forgot his name. Mark Davis just said. Rome was not built in a day,
He's sticking with him.
implying that Josh McDaniels won't be going anywhere. But if the Raiders still keep losing, like they're 0-5 on the road right now. And if you can't win on the road, then you can't win playoffs. You can't win a championship. You can't go anywhere if you keep losing on the road. And I think it's just a really bad situation.
This game wasn't even on the road. That was the thing. I picked the Raiders to win and cover. I figured if there was any time they could do it, it was against a Colts team in turmoil. But instead, we got Matt Ryan. We got Jeff Saturday. Yeah, he looked composed on the sideline. And we got a Colts pretty decisive victory over the Raiders. All right, let's keep it rolling. Who do you have at number 30?
So everyone's in denial about this. Everyone's like, but they're going to come back up. Russell Wilson's we're going to make it happen. The Denver Broncos.
I'm not in denial about that.
At 30. I cannot believe that this is the narrative we're going with, because at the beginning of the season, the Broncos were playoff contenders, and now they're 30th in our power rankings at 3-6.
I also had them at 30, and I think there's a lot fewer people that believe in them at this point than you think. I think there's just people they've gotten past the point where, they're going to turn it around. They would have turned it around by now. We're now 10 weeks in. 2 AFC West teams. We thought the AFC West was going to be like a historical division. And here they are. I saw a stat. I believe that the Broncos are number 1 in fewest points allowed and number 32 in points scored. If it's not exactly that, it's really close to that. What a discrepancy. Like, that was supposed to be the missing piece. You bring in, you might as well have Drew Lock on this team. Like, Drew Lock would make this offense more exciting. I agree with you. I also had the Broncos at 30. So far, we're in complete agreement, Anthony. Hopefully that changes up just for spicy take. Number 29, another team that, not too long ago had Super Bowl aspirations every year, and that's the New Orleans Saints. I thought that they could be better with Andy Dalton at quarterback. They showed signs of being more competent, more stable, and instead, you might as well put Jameis back in. At least Jameis gives you a bigger variance. Like, he might throw a lot of interceptions, but he's also going to push the ball down the field. He's going to create some big plays that at least makes your team more exciting and more competent. They just lost to the Steelers, right? And the Steelers is nobody's idea of a good football team this year. It's crazy. We got the Broncos, Raiders, and Saints. A lot of these 3 teams, people picked in the playoffs, a lot of them in the preseason. Here they are, 29, 30, and 31. Let's keep it moving. Who do you have at 28?
At 28, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think the only fun part about this team was the onside kick to open the game against the Chiefs. But then they lost by 10. And Trevor Lawrence does seem more comfortable in that offense, but it just doesn't seem to be. I mean, I think they're still in the early development stage, and they're just not. They're not winning any games. So,
yeah, I did have them. This is our first small discrepancy. I had them at 25. I just feel like top to bottom, they're a better team. Granted it's the Raiders, but they did win the week before. They just played the Chiefs. So you have to kind of take that into context. But 25, 28, we're kind of splitting hairs there. There's a lot of young talent. I would say that's the one good thing about the Jags is they're much better than they looked last season. Arrows up as Lawrence gets more comfortable. I think good things are ahead for Jacksonville. Number 27, how about the defending Super Bowl champion, LA Rams?
Oh, no.
And I considered putting them lower. I mean, come on. And I know Stafford wasn't in there, but Stafford's been bad this year, not average. Stafford has been genuinely bad. I thought even with Wolford in there, they could find a way to beat a worse Cardinals team, and it didn't happen. LA's no run game, no offense. I think they had something like 15 yards on the first drive or something. Nothing. They had like 40 yards at half. It was despicable against a bad Cardinals defense. And the defense on the other side of the ball, yes, they're better and they've got stars. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey still playing very good football, but the rest of the defense not as good. They're not getting any type of pass rush outside of Donald. There's really not a lot to get excited about, and they're essentially done at this point. At week 10, with 8 weeks left in the NFL season, they're essentially done their season after winning the Super Bowl last year.
I think you may have just talked me into it. You've convinced me. They lack depth in almost every position. I actually changed my mind. I would put
and no Cooper Kupp. I didn't even mention that. By the way, the one thing that has been giving them some hope is now was either had surgery or is scheduled to have surgery and was placed on injured reserve today, which means he's out a minimum of 4 games. There is nothing bright about this team. And guess what? They don't have draft picks to make up for it. So tough time to be a Rams fan. But you know, it's not a tough time. You guys won the Super Bowl last year. I don't feel sorry for you. Number 26, Anthony.
The Bears.
Oh.
Uh,
That's the NFC North speaking, that you have them ahead of Carolina. But go ahead.
yeah,
Give us...
well, I mean, you lose against Detroit. You don't lose against Detroit. You just don't. Detroit's the team to beat this year. Detroit, I mean, yeah, they came on. We can talk about the Lions later, but with the pick six and a missed extra point, Chicago's defense isn't looking good, letting a broken offense with Detroit score all over them. I just think that they're back to the Bears that they were at the beginning of last season, where they were still trying to gain their bearings, and Justin Fields was brand new. I think they're trying to work around him still, and I think they're at 26 here.
Yeah, but you can't say that they're not a much more exciting and dynamic offense. Justin Fields is on pace to break Lamar Jackson's single-season rushing record for a quarterback. He has, I believe, the most rushing yards, period, of all players over the last 3 weeks. I mean, this is a guy that's dynamic. Cole Kmet is getting involved. Darnell Mooney, they're finally producing. Khalil Herbert just went on IR today. That's a bit of a hit because I think he's more explosive than David Montgomery. But Montgomery has also been a very solid running back. Their problems on the defense are bad.
Yes.
They were middling before they lost Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith, and so they're not really able to stop anybody. But I don't know. I would have had them a little bit higher. I guess I had them at 26, but I had them ahead of the Carolina Panthers, who I'm going to put at 25. I know they just won, but I don't know. That was an uninspiring game against a Falcons team that came out flat, and Mariota played his worst game of the season. I would not put them ahead of Chicago, but alas, that's what we get in the draft. I don't want to put a lot of analysis into Carolina. I think we know what we're getting at this point, other than PJ Walker's out, and guess what? We're getting Baker again this week, so Baker Mayfield is back to starting. Dante Foreman, there's your silver lining. Dante Foreman has been fantastic filling in for now that Christian McCaffrey is in San Francisco. Anthony, let's get to number 24.
Number 24, Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, DeAndre Swift, and the Detroit Lions. I'm happy to say that because of the position they were in last week and the week before that. So 24 I'll take. I'm happy about it. I'll take it. They did play very competitive. They did allow 258 yards on the ground. That was not good. They have a bad defense, but they're injury prone and there's bad play calling, and that's going to cost them the season. But we go from there. We're still in the rebuild stage. Detroit's at 24, the best they've been on since week 5. So I'll take it.
I mean, hey, you get 2 wins in a row, both against division foes. That's positive. There's been a lot of not so positive things coming out of Detroit, especially after the hype from Hard Knocks. So You'll take this. I actually had them at 23. So, just a spot higher.
Thank you.
So, you're playing a real. David says Panthers ahead of the Rams. Shocking, but absolutely true. It's a crazy time we're living in, but that's the beauty of the NFL. All right, let's keep it rolling on to number 23. I put this team below the Lions, but I mean, it was kind of a coin flip, and that's the Steelers. They did win, and I predicted that, that was one of my, and I did not do great in my picks. Just throw this out there. I'll have the game pick show on Friday. I didn't do good against the spread, and I didn't do well picking the teams, but I did pick this. This was my upset of the week, the Steelers beating the Saints, and I got that one right. Running game looked better. TJ Watt. Night and day what that defense looks like. Alex Highsmith on the other side graded above 90 with PFF. Now that he doesn't have to be the sole pass rusher, they're due to get Minkah Fitzpatrick back this week. Kenny Pickett still has his issues as rookie quarterback, as to be expected, but the arrow is up. George Pickens scored a rushing touchdown. Jalen Warren is getting more and more touches each week. Even Najee Harris had just under 100 yards. So I like where Pittsburgh's going. This obviously a well-coached team. Let's hear from number 22.
Number 22, the Cleveland Browns. I think they're waiting for Deshaun Watson to return, and right now they're just trying to survive. Their next 2 games are the Bucs and the Bills, so it's looking like 3-8. They can't stop the run, and they're struggling in the secondary, so they're not doing anything on defense. They can kind of run with Nick Chubb, but that's not going to be enough. So they're stuck at 22 until Deshaun Watson goes back, and then we can maybe change that narrative.
Well, here's the thing. Deshaun Watson, number one, he hasn't played football in 2 years, so we don't really know what we're getting. The one sample we got, preseason, sure, but he looked awful. Even if he plays great, he can't play defense. And we saw just how bad their the Dolphins have one of, if not potentially the top offense in the entire NFL right now. So you have a bad Browns defense going up against maybe the best offense in the NFL. And we saw exactly what that looked like. They were absolutely dominated. The more surprising thing is that they couldn't run the ball on Miami. I don't know if that's a Browns issue or if that was the Dolphins actually buckling down. But I had them at 22. We are completely aligned there. Let's keep it moving. Cool. Number 21, I'm going to put the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team I have so much faith in them, and I think they could have won that game and maybe more of the games that they've lost, but Mariota is a liability. I said that. I tweeted that out, that it is time to see Desmond Ridder. Arthur Smith has already said he's not going to do that, but this is a team that has been very good running the ball, has multiple players who can produce on the run game, have maybe the most athletically gifted tight end we've possibly ever seen in Kyle Pitts. And there was a narrative earlier in the season that, they're not getting him the ball. Well, he's had like 7 targets each of the last at least 2 games. They're just way off. If you're watching these games, Mariota, and this guy's got like one of the largest wingspans in the NFL, and Mariota's still not able to get the ball to him. That's a problem. So, and the Falcons defense has not been good. They have not helped out. So 21, preseason, that would have been a good ranking for the Falcons. So be happy with that, guys. Let's keep it rolling. Number 20, Anthony.
Number 20, I got to go the Arizona Cardinals. At 4-6, they just beat a non-existent offense. They just beat a team that's just broken from the ground up. And they just haven't been good. I can't see them anywhere less than 20. Just because it just doesn't look like a good team. And then there's the Kingsbury and his play calling, and then Kyler Murray swearing on the sideline. Like, it's just it looks like they're not sure what they're doing. And that this Rams game was like, okay, let's maybe look like a real team again. Let's just pretend.
They had a different quarterback. I mean, I don't know how much is Kyler arguing with his coach and arguing with his top wide receiver. Colt McCoy comes in there, gets injured, comes back in, shows a little grit. Threw that really nice touchdown pass to A.J. Green. Shout out to A.J. Green, who came back in and shows that he's not quite done yet.
So you have hope in them. Where did you put them? I'm curious. Where you put the Cardinals now.
I had them at 19, and only because and I know it was a feel-good story, but I still had them above the Colts. I mean, I think that was a reflection of a few things. One, I think Saturday did a couple things. There's an interim coach bump. That's real. There's a lot of data behind that. 2, bring Matt Ryan back in instead of Sam Ehlinger. And 3, playing a Raiders team that's just a mess. And whether it's Josh McDaniels or they have the worst defense in the NFL, and so many statistics the Raiders do. So, but I still don't think they're better than a lot of these teams. So that's why I had the Cardinals ahead of them. But I mean, it's nitpicking there. The Colts won. I don't want to trash them anymore for Jimmy's sake. So let's keep on moving. Actually, we're right at halftime.
Yeah.
Are you going to go pause the camera, Mr. Producer?
Yeah. I'm not sure.
See, this is what happens when you have one guy, our producer, who's also trying to be a guest. Jimmy, I guess I didn't say at the top of the show, Jimmy is out of town this week. He will be back next week. Shout out Jimmy Ray from NFL Stats on Twitter. Loco Monkey Sports in the chat while we're at halftime. As a Broncos fan, if they're in the top 32, that's too high. They're still above the Raiders and the Texans. I believe the Broncos play the Raiders this week. So, hey, battle for number 30 and the power rankings. It's been a rough season for a Denver team. Denver season that we expected so much more from. The Raiders kind of in the same ballpark there. I'm seeing 2 Anthonys right now. Is that me?
That's
all right. It's all funky. I don't even know if he's messing with me. If no. I'm getting some of that Aaron Rodgers ayahuasca. Who knows what's going on right now? I don't have anything special for halftime, Anthony. Let's go ahead and set the. You guys know the drill by now. Sign up for legitfootball.com. We got some cool things in the works, working on some really exciting things to finish out the season and look even into the off season. And now we're losing Anthony altogether. Anthony, are you there?
Yep, we lost the timer.
Okay.
We lost the timer.
All right, that's fine. Just you want to set the timer personally, and then just let me know when we're at the end. These people are here for some power rankings. Let's jump. Sure. Let's jump back into it. All right. So number 18, Anthony. Let's keep it rolling.
Cool. Number 18. I have the Green Bay Packers.
I did too.
We agree on that. cool. I don't know. After that loss against the Lions, and they just beat the Cowboys in a comeback win, but they lost 5 in a row first. And so, can we say that they're back? No, we can't, because the Cowboys already have been struggling again, and they struggled at that second half of that game. And I don't know. The Packers just are not looking good at all, and I think that they belong at the 18th slot.
Well, here's the thing. There's such thing as a spark. We know the Packers are talented, just like we knew the Bucs were talented. They got a spark by pulling off that last second victory against the Rams, and they showed up better than they have all season against the Seahawks. We'll talk about the Bucs when we get to them. Could we see a similar bump? The Packers, what I was most impressed with is that they were able to move the ball through the air against the Cowboys, who has been one of the best defenses in the NFL, right? So I'm wondering if that spark can hold Christian Watson, if he can be the difference playmaker that they need. Lazard can be the possession guy. Watson can stretch defenses. Aaron Jones still looks great. This team is very talented on both sides of the football. They still have Jair Alexander on the defensive side. Yes, they lost Rashawn Gary. They lost Eric Stokes. Lots of bad injuries. Devontae Campbell has been injured. But it's a team that can compete. If they can beat the Cowboys, then I think they can still have an outside chance at making a wild card. I think the division's gone. The NFC North is the Vikings at this point.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm not ready to write them off anymore if we can see them build on this. Now, they have some tough games coming up. They have the Titans on Thursday Night Football and then the Eagles next week. So I guess we'll wait to see how they do getting through those two juggernauts first. Number 17, I'm going to put the Washington Commanders, knocking off the last unbeaten team. I'm glad that I got to play Washington because as a Dolphins fan, the 1972 Dolphins get to toast, pour out their glass of champagne, and cheer the last undefeated team getting beaten. So thank you, Washington, for doing that. As a Dolphins fan, that's one of the... I've never seen the Dolphins Super Bowl, right? They went when I was 4 years old. So the one thing I have usually is getting the last undefeated team to lose. Look, I love Taylor Heineke. I think Ron Rivera should stick with Heineke at quarterback. I think it would be a mistake to go to Wentz. Look, they've won, 4 of 5 games under him? Why would you even consider putting Carson Wentz in there? That would be a huge coaching mistake. Heineke's not perfect. He makes mistakes. He takes chances, but this team is energized. Terry McLaurin is so much better under Heineke, and I think the target rate is like twice as much. I saw a statistic. It's like 32% target share with Heineke, 16% with Wentz, to Terry McLaurin, who, by the way, is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. So it's things like that. Sure. The defense is playing better. Chase Young is coming back. This NFC East, man, it's just fun to watch. Okay, I don't want to talk too much more about Washington, so let's keep it rolling to number 16.
Number 16, I have the New England Patriots. This is a hit or miss for me. Because...
like, are you going to give us some analysis?
Yeah, here? A little bit. I don't know, because they're such a confusing team, because Bailey Zappi came out and just looked really good, and then Mac Jones started up again and just didn't look good at all. So which is it? Are they good? Are they not good? Like we never know anymore. But it's Bill Belichick. We know we can't bet against him, and so it's a really hard one. Who gets scored? I mean, even their defense isn't the greatest, allowing a lot of.
Well, here's the thing: if you look at some of the advanced metrics, I was looking at DVOA. I believe they're number 1 in defensive DVOA right now. Number 1 in the entire NFL. Now, some of that has been opponents and who they face, but hey, you only get to play your schedule, and the defense has played great, and it's a Bill Belichick defense. That doesn't really surprise me. Offense is still a question mark. They play the Jets this week. We'll see if the Jets, who beat the Bills before they went on bye, Patriots were on bye as well. If the Jets can beat the Patriots, that'll tell us a lot about both teams. Number 15, I actually had the Patriots at 16, and I had the Chargers at I had the Patriots at 15 and the Chargers at 16, so obviously I'll reverse them here. I've said it multiple times, so I won't say it too many more times, that the Chargers, this team is way too talented to be where they're at. Now, look, they faced a superior Niners team. I predicted they would lose. That's not a surprise to me. And I know they've had injuries, and both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are slated to return to practice this week. That is huge. But this team is still too talented to be where they're at. And huge, there's no adjective to describe the matchup between the Chiefs that has been flexed to Sunday Night Football this week. You either win that or you got to hope to fight for a wild card spot, because this AFC West is getting steamrolled by the Chiefs. So nothing else to say. Questions about Joe Lombardi as a play caller, questions about Staley as a head coach. This Chargers team should be a lot higher in these power rankings, but here they are.
All right. This one was hard for 14 because the record shows it needs to be Seattle. but performance shows it needs to be Tampa Bay. But I'm gonna go Tampa Bay at 14. Because I wanted to say Seattle, but I've had my doubts about Seattle
We're gonna
for a while.
get
I think
trashed
we
on
have to-
Twitter for that.
we
Not
are.
that that's a reason. I honestly I had them the same. I had Seahawks 13, Bucks 14. But yeah, just because of anytime you put two teams together, that one team just beat the other team, and the team that lost is below in the power rankings, we're just guaranteed to get trashed on Twitter. But that's okay. Tell us why you put them at 14, Anthony.
Because Tom Brady just isn't the same. I know since the divorce, he's undefeated. There's that. But if you think about the way that he's been throwing it up and to receivers that don't really know how to catch, even Mike Evans will be dropping passes or won't even get open enough for Tom Brady to pass. They have no run game and their defense is allowing points. Games are just too close for them to be a contender right now. And I think that they're going to be stuck at 14 for a little while.
Yeah, it was more like I want to keep seeing it. I mentioned that, yeah, they beat the Rams. It gave them some energy. They played a better game in this game, and that includes week 1 when they beat the Cowboys. They played better in this game on both sides of the ball, especially on defense, than they have all year. The run game showed promise, primarily because Rachaad White was running the ball instead of Leonard Fournette. Their offense seemed a little more in sync with their receivers, and if they can keep that going, this team is going to climb up. They're way too talented. It's been just one of those things that, like the Packers, it's like the talent is there. There's just something missing. I think the Bucs will see them continue to rise. I have a feeling that, I mean, they're also in a division that they're going to run away with at this point. You know, their competition is the Falcons, and the Falcons under Mariota are just not going to be able to keep up with the Bucs. But I'll go ahead and move the Seahawks to 13, as I mentioned. I'm fine getting trashed with that. You're right. You're right. If anybody says I would totally justify putting the Bucs ahead of them, Seahawks are still in first place in the NFC West by a half a game anyway. And that doesn't mean I think they're better than the Niners. Obviously, we haven't put the 49ers on here yet.
Right.
And I think they played great. Geno Smith still looks fantastic. He made some amazing throws in that game and almost was able to bring them back from the brink to beat the Bucs in Germany. So I have no idea what the timer is, so I don't want to. I'll just keep talking if I don't see a timer. So let's just keep rolling.
We have 7 minutes left.
Okay, let's just keep rolling. Give us number 12, Anthony.
New York Jets. They're heading into their bye week with a big win against the Bills, and I think that they're an actual contender of the AFC now that we never thought would be a thing. I mean, excuse me. I'm choking like the Bills.
And
so Zach Wilson's not the best. Breece Hall is on IR, so there's a lot to worry about these Jets, but their defense is still looking good, and they're still able to somehow win games. And I think Zach Wilson does have a way up. He's still very athletic. He was first round pick for a reason, and I think we can believe in the Jets being at 12.
So I had them at 9, and so I want you're going to get trashed for this because this is a Jets team that beat the Bills before going on bye. So the last time we saw them play, they were beating the Buffalo Bills, a lot of people's preseason Super Bowl favorites, mine included. So I guess we can wait to see what other teams we end up putting above here, but are you prepared to defend the Jets at number 12 here?
I'm prepared. I believed in the Jets. I wanted to put them lower, but I watching them play, I think there were a lot of issues. I think Buffalo shot themselves in the foot a lot of times, and the Jets just were able to capitalize against that. And so I want to see them succeed. I like the Jets. I want to see them succeed, but I don't know. I don't know about them.
All right, let's keep on rolling. For number 11, I'm going to put the Dallas Cowboys falling out of the top 10 after losing that game to the Packers. There's a lot of emotions in the game. We talked about how well that Green Bay played. I love the resiliency, but the Cowboys should have still won this game. I don't even know that I can pinpoint anything in particular. I think that just they didn't make the plays when they needed to, whereas the Packers were just motivated to win this game. We had the McCarthy returning to the team that he coached for, I think it was 12 years or something long like that. And he won the Super Bowl with Rodgers and Green Bay there. I'm curious to see what they do when Zeke comes back, because I still think this offense is so much better with Pollard as the lead back. CeeDee Lamb has really looked great lately. Dalton Schultz looked like he's getting healthy again. Dak making some bad decisions and costing them at key points. Curious to see how they do going forward. So let's keep it rolling. Jump into the number 10.
Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
They don't have a very good offense, but it's like they don't need to. It's almost like they find a way to win anyway, especially with Derrick Henry and everything. They have a good defense, and Mike Vrabel and his team they know how to win. They figured it out just like the Giants did when we didn't think they would. The Titans are like a different version of the Giants, I think, and they definitely deserve top 10.
Yeah, that's another team that's running away with their division, mainly because of the competition in there with Jacksonville, Houston, and the Colts. Yeah, they're not a sexy team. But they get the job done. Their defense has actually played phenomenal the past few weeks. They really got to Russell Wilson in this one. Even with Jeffrey Simmons out, even with, I think they had a number of defensive starters injured. They're still finding ways to make plays on the defensive side of the ball. Derrick Henry actually didn't have a great game. Ryan Tannehill and Nick Westbrook-Ikine making plays in the pass game to end up getting this victory over Denver. And that's the thing. They just find ways to win. Like all these Titans teams under Vrabel, they're so well coached. It's hard to put them higher, even though we'll probably get some people on Twitter that thinks we should put them higher. But hey, they're still top 10. Number 9, Cincinnati Bengals. Now, from a record standpoint, they're would be lower than a lot of these teams. But the last time we saw them, they looked like a Super Bowl caliber team. Yes, it was against the Panthers, but they were just unstoppable. Joe Mixon, they finally got the running game going. We've seen how good they can be, especially when Jamar Chase is in the lineup, which he's still going to be out a few more weeks. If this Bengals team can play like they did before their bye against the Panthers, they're going to be one of the top teams in the AFC. So that's why I have them inside the top 10. Let's keep going to number 8.
San Francisco 49ers.
Niners fans in the chat. David's still there. I had him higher, just a little bit higher, but 8. Tell us why. Tell us why, Anthony.
I mean, they're still 5-4, and they're still trailing the Seahawks. Like in their division, they're still not number 1. So do they even deserve to be in the top 10? I mean, yeah, they're a great team. They have a pass rush that can, destroy offenses. Their secondary is good. Everything about that team is good. But that's really close to the top 5, and I couldn't picture the 49ers being even close to a top 5 team right now.
So you would put the Giants ahead of the 49ers?
Yes, I would.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I would.
I did not. I will put the Giants in there next. I did have the 49ers above them. Look, the Giants are a great story. But as I mentioned earlier, they've won all their games. I think every single game that they won prior to this one, they were losing and they had to come back to win it. And that's grit and that's coaching. And Dable's done a fantastic job. But the team still has a lot of holes talent-wise. The 49ers roster is much better. They're getting healthier. So when I have these debates, Giants better record. But if the Giants were playing the 49ers this week, I would be picking the 49ers to win. So that's how I do the power rankings. Now, hey, that's the beauty of the draft. You have your own style. I have my own style. So I'll go ahead and put the New York Giants, who at this point, short of a complete and utter collapse, are due for a playoff appearance, especially with 7 playoff teams now.
Hey, I'm a Lions fan. I like a good underdog story. So.
It is a good underdog story. As long as they keep winning, they're going to stay up here. Sure. All right, number 6, Anthony.
I have the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, boo. Boo. I had them number 4.
Okay, it's really hard because of that offense. That offense is insane. Like I haven't seen an offense like that since Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Like I don't know, it's Tyreek Hill like the secret ingredient to a successful offense, because that's what it looks like right now. I do think that there are still better teams than Miami. That's why I just put them at 6. I wanted to put them in the top 5, but I wasn't feeling it yet.
Well, so 2 of the teams that you have ahead of Miami has beat this year: the Ravens and the Bills.
Fair
just
point.
So we're clear. Now, I am a Miami Dolphins fan. I'm a homer. However, I tend to be more conservative on them. I think it's like self-preservation after 20 years of mediocrity. But the reason I put them at 4 is, the offense is actually, if you take out the games that Tua didn't finish or didn't play, They're not only undefeated, but they have the number one offense in expected points added per play. They have the number one offense in the entire NFL in games where Tua starts and finishes the game. They are also undefeated in those games. Add on the fact that, Cleve, say what you want about the Browns defense, but their offense has actually been pretty good this year. Nick Chubb has been one of the best running backs in the NFL. Jacoby Brissett has been surprisingly good. Amari Cooper. The Dolphins shut down that Browns off. So the defense now came up. So the fact that they were able, because that was my big worry, right? What happens when Miami plays a really good offense? Well, I'm not saying they're a top 10 offense, but I would say Browns are top 15, and the Dolphins defense showed up. So that's why I had them at 4, but fine, you want to put them at 6, that's how it works.
Okay.
But that I'm going to have to put the Ravens at 5 then. Look, I'm really,
All right.
the Ravens are playing very good football. I think that we're going to look back on Smith signing and how he played against the Saints and how he was able to plug that running game with Alvin Kamara. Like, that was a huge weakness for Baltimore, and what a huge upgrade making that trade to get Roquan Smith in the middle. So I think the arrow is up for Baltimore. I love them here. The Dolphins beat them. That's why I put them ahead. Let's keep on rolling, though. I have no idea how much time is left, but it can't be that much time. Number 4.
The timer's up.
Okay, fine. Let's just roll through these top 4 teams.
All right, cool.
It's all off here. This is what happens when the producer joins you in front of the camera. Number 4, Anthony.
I gotta go Buffalo Bills. I don't want to, but I have to.
Reasoning?
Yes. I mean, the reason was
I had them at 5, FYI, just so you know.
okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, anybody who watched that game against the Jets would know the reason. They seem to not be. They're not having fun anymore. Everything seems very forced. I remember that first game against the Rams. They were having so much fun out there, and they did great. I think that they have some holes in the secondary that they need filling, and I think that there's a lot of issues offensively that they haven't dealt with. They've just been airing out and going out there and scoring, but now they have to deal with them because defenses are starting to read them now, and I think that that's going to put them at the 4th spot.
David Morazzo says, "Forget the timer, keep rolling, boys." So okay,
All right.
We'll give our analysis and then we'll wrap up the show. We don't have to stick to a particular time in this instance. So here's the thing with the Bills: we're seeing cracks, right? We've always known that secondary's been beat up. That's been the one spot you can attack them if you can get past their pass rush. But the biggest concern for me is that Josh Allen is making bad decisions in the red zone. This is 3 games in a row. He did it against the Packers. Didn't matter. They still won by 10. He did it against the Jets and they lost. He did it against the Vikings and they lost. 2 losses in a row, primarily due to Josh Allen throwing ill-timed red zone interceptions in the end zone. That's now a trend. This isn't a one-game thing. So, look, top to bottom, no team can match the Bills. We saw the Chiefs lose to the Bills when the Bills were at full strength and playing their best football. The Bills are the best team roster-wise in the NFL, but I can't even say it's the elbow thing with Allen because he didn't have the elbow thing against the Jets until the last play of the game, and he didn't have it against the Packers, and he's still making these decisions. Maybe it's bravado, maybe it's, actually, if you look back at the Dolphins game where the Dolphins won, he didn't have any interceptions, but he had 5 turnover-worthy plays in that game. Right. If you look at PFF and how they grade each play. A turnover-worthy play doesn't mean there was a turnover. It just means it should have resulted in a turnover. So that could be the Achilles heel for this Bills team. There, you can attack them in the secondary, and Josh Allen might just be mistake-prone. He's otherworldly, and he could probably still beat you 9 times out of 10. But if you force him into those, you give him enough opportunity to possibly just make a bad decision and maybe think too much of his abilities, that could be something to monitor going forward. They are 3rd place in the AFC East right now. My Dolphins are 1st. Rich, the Pro Football Demons Jets are 2nd. It's a lovely time to be a Jets and Dolphins fan.
You're absolutely right. Would it be wrong to put the Bills at 5 and put the Dolphins at 4? Would it be wrong to change that up? Because I think
I'm going to say no. We're not locked into this. We're going to push this in because I'm a Dolphins fan, plays into it a little bit.
Course. See, now, looking at the visual of that makes more sense.
Yeah.
If I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was stuck in like week 7 or something, but I think that looks better to me because I think you've just convinced me. You're right. The Bills are a little mistake prone in the Miami. Dolphins are just airing it out and making it happen. So yeah, that makes more sense to me. Let's go with that.
Yeah, so the next, let's go to the top 3. This one's going to be interesting. I'm actually glad we don't have a timer for this because this is the first time the top 3 has, in many, many weeks, has been consequential, meaning it's not going to be what it has been the past few weeks because we don't have any undefeated teams. The team who was clearly at number 2, the Bills, they lost. So I have the next pick. I'm going to go ahead and put the Philadelphia Eagles. I've seen other
Wow.
I did my personal power rankings before I looked at other power rankings out there. That's how I do it. I don't want to be influenced by NFL.com, ESPN, The Athletic. And I saw a lot of people some people kept the Eagles at 1. I get that. But when I put them up against these other 2 teams for a few things, and we can mention there's only the Chiefs and the Vikings left. So I'm curious who you put it to, because that'll mean who we have at 1. But the Chiefs are playing the best football of any team in the NFL right now. Just saying that. Yes, they have 2 losses. They lost to the Colts in a bit of a fluky game. That was really shooting themselves in the foot. And they lost to the Bills at 2 teams going at it their best, and the Bills came out on top. And the other team's the Vikings, who you say what you want on paper, but they're finding ways to win. And they're finding ways to win against great teams. Now, you can't say they haven't played anybody. They just beat the Buffalo Bills. I still very much believe in the Eagles. I think they're the most well-rounded and best team top to bottom in the NFC. I think the path to the Super Bowl will go through Lincoln Financial, go through Philly, because I think they'll be the number 1 seed. But I had to put them at 3 this week.
Right. And I agreed with you. I put them at 3 as well.
No,
and
there you go.
Because of one reason, strength of schedule. Look at who they've been beating. Look at who they've been playing. And then look at who Minnesota's
real quick,
been
though,
playing.
because we will get this, one of the 2 teams ahead of the Eagles beat earlier this season. They beat the Vikings, so we have to keep that in mind. They trounced them on Monday Night Football. It was a week 2, sure, but they beat them down. That's the only loss the Vikings have.
You beat Kirk Cousins on prime time. Like, you give him a cookie or something, because that's not hard to do. Kirk Cousins is not good at prime time. That's shown in his entire career, even in college. If the sun was down, he threw interceptions. And I mean, yeah, you can argue that the Eagles are still the best team in the league, but I don't buy it. Put them against Buffalo, put them against Kansas City, and then see who they really are.
David in the chat said Dolphins beat the Bills ? Yeah, they beat them back in week 3. That was actually the Bills' first loss. It was that swampy, 95-degree day in South Florida. It was actually the game that Tua got the concussion thing and then started the next week against the Bengals, and then that was when he had the weird hand thing. But yeah, I mean, it was week 3, but they did beat them. All right, so you get number 2, Anthony. Who are you putting at number 2, which will therefore determine our number 1? Vikings or Chiefs?
Here we go. I'm an NFC North fan. so this is hard. This is very hard because I'm a Lions fan, die hard. I hate the Vikings. Kansas City Chiefs go at 2. They lost against the Colts in that game. They beat themselves. Who knows when they're going to beat themselves again? Minnesota lost fighting, and so you have to give them that. Yeah, they came back in a comeback, and when you're coming back from a comeback, then there's issues there. But they did it, and they won. So nonetheless, the Vikings are the best team in the NFL going into Week 11. Kansas City is at 2.
Yeah, I agree. I put the Chiefs at 2. I still think that the Chiefs are playing better than anyone else right now, but we kept the Eagles at 1 in the power rankings for so long because they earned it. So I felt I had to give the Vikings number 1 because they've earned it. They just beat the Buffalo Bills, a team who a lot of people had as their number 1 in the power rankings. They're 8-1 at this point. They're running away with the NFC North. Their only loss was to the Eagles, who are sitting at 3. Until proven otherwise, their defense is playing well. Patrick Peterson is having a renaissance in Minnesota, playing at a Pro Bowl level. Yeah, I agree. Chiefs at 2, Vikings at 1. All right, let's quick, because I know we're way over. The internal timer on the show says 44 minutes. So apologies that this is more than 30 minutes of football, guys, but sometimes that's a good thing. 32 Texans, 31 Raiders, 30 Broncos, 29 Saints, 28 Jaguars, 27 Rams, 26 Bears, 25 Panthers, 24 Anthony's Lions, 23 Steelers, 22 Browns, 21 Falcons, 20 Cardinals, 19 Colts, 18 Packers, 17 Commanders, 16 Patriots, 15 Chargers, 14 Bucks, 13 Seahawks, 12 Rich's New York Jets, 11 Cowboys, 10 Titans, 9 Bengals, 8 San Francisco 49ers, 7 New York Giants, 6 Baltimore Ravens, 5 Buffalo Bills, 4 my Miami Dolphins, top 5, look at that, 3 Philadelphia Eagles, 2 Kansas City Chiefs, and the Minnesota freaking Vikings are number 1 in our power rankings this week. Anthony, what are you looking forward to most this week?
The Lions beating the Giants in an upset. That's
There you go.
what I'm
That's
looking
it. That's all
forward
that matters. Nothing else matters to Anthony. The Dolphins are off this week, so on a personal level, I get a little bit of a breather. I can really focus on the other games, which maybe I need because I have not been picking the games very well the past 3 weeks now. All right, that's it, Anthony. Thank you for joining me in front
You're
of the
welcome.
glass. While simultaneously attempting, we kind of threw away the timer at one point. That's okay. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I saw Local Monkey. I saw David Morazzo hanging out for the whole show. Appreciate you guys. If this is your first time watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If it's your first time with listening in our audio-only podcast, please make sure to subscribe. We do this every week. We will be back again Thursday, as always, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, for our live viewer questions. We take live fantasy questions for an hour with Rich Joe Dice, the Pro Football Demon, and then we'll be back on Friday for our weekly game picks. Thanks, guys. This has been 30 minutes of football, maybe 45 minutes of football with legit football. We'll see you on Thursday.
See ya. Go Lions.
That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.